Thank you, AJ.
Oh, yeah.
All right, a minute or two late, but I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum of all our members here. Patty is on the computer. And just a quick check for the record, Patty, you can hear me?
Looks like she might
Please
be
say,
frozen.
can you see her?
Looks like it's frozen. Yeah, she's not moving at all.
Hey Patty? There you go. Can you hear Mickey? Listen.
Okay, Patty, I'm calling the meeting to order and I'm verifying that you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. Then we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Michael, would you mind leading us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, opening public comment. Steve is racing to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Steve Bashir on behalf of Tahoe Chamber. I am begging your indulgence to speak to item 2 briefly because I have other meetings this afternoon and I won't be able to stay for that item. So again, Steve Bashir on behalf of Tahoe Chamber. Wanted to let you know that the Chamber has filed a request for public records with Douglas County seeking the information we believe you should have in developing the recommendations. And that those recommendations are to be for modifications to the existing VHR ordinance to pass forward to the Planning Commission and ultimately to the county commissioners. We know you have been under significant pressure from a variety of sources and opinions in your deliberations to date, but relying on accurate data is the key to good policy making. Unfortunately, accurate data has not been the basis for some of the changes that you are scheduled to consider today. So we are opposed to the package of changes that you have before you today for a possible vote. In particular, the limitation of 2 guests per bedroom and the changes to the existing VHR tier system. These, in our judgment, are arbitrary and capricious, not based on data. So a couple of examples. We understand the mission you were given by the Board of County Commissioners was in part how to improve VHR code enforcement. I don't think that limitation of 2 guests per bedroom is something that can be effectively enforced. So it seems like your proposal is actually going in the wrong direction. And our final comment this afternoon is one we have made to you previously. Policy decisions are being made in Douglas County without any knowledge or understanding of the economic impacts of the changes to the VHR code that you're contemplating. We respectfully urge you to delay action on your package today until you have a proper foundation of data, and this will help you and the other county forums involved to avoid adopting regulations that are arbitrary and capricious. Thank you for your allowing me to speak to item 2 during public comment. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other opening public comment?
Steve, is it okay if I write your name on the top here?
Yes, thank you, Ellie.
Ellie Waller, I'm not sure how today's process is going to be run, and that's just fine. I will bring up that I just had a couple things on supplementing some of the documentation for clarity, and I will turn those in at a later date after we hear what's going on today. And I decided to prepare 2 pages for you guys to consider putting together for your presentation to the Planning Commission and the future commissioners. It's just tier information, so they understand. So I developed a 1-pager, and I want you to massage it, look at it, play with it, but it generally gives you up to 4 occupants, what insurance is required, how many parking spaces are limited, and then also to help the planning commissioners and the board of commissioners better understand in your future packets to them, provide them the fee structure so they see how much money is going in and how it's been well spent on providing additional enforcement. So I made one for everybody for future consideration instead
Ellie,
of.
if you could just keep those with Ernie, I'll make
Okay.
sure those get distributed.
Okay, thank you so much.
To everyone in the same.
Yes, I appreciate that I've had the opportunity to participate. And just to deflect the last, and I will let Mr. Teixeira know that I disagreed if he doesn't listen. The +2 is a very strange animal. I know we've come forward with trying to address, we like families in these homes, but it's not always families. You don't know what age of people are coming. If a parent needs to sleep with a child, they're gonna go do that anyway. The enforcement piece of that, I somewhat agree. I disagree also with relying on accurate data. And are you, and maybe the question needs to be answered, responsible for economic impacts? Thank you.
Any further opening public comment? Just to let you know, before we vote on this, there will be public comment, and then there will be closing public comment.
My name is Maureen Casey. I am the chair of the Douglas County Planning Commission. I just wanted to acknowledge all the hard work that the committee has done and to say thank you. I hope that we can do justice to your work when it comes before us on the 14th. I know it's been a long, arduous journey with a lot of disagreement and agreement, and we'll probably go through something similar when it comes to us. But again, I want to thank you. I want to thank Ernie and AJ for keeping up with you, because I know there's been so much back and forth. And I know for me, speaking for me as an individual, watching the meetings has been quite the journey. And thank you for the entertainment, and thank you for, again, for all your hard work.
Thank you, Maureen. Is there any other opening public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close opening public comment and move on to the approval of the agenda. It is my understanding that item number 1 will need to be removed since that matter has been resolved. So I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with item number 1 removed.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Was that you, Michael? Okay. I have a motion from Lauren, a second from Michael to approve the agenda as published with the exception of item number 1. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, 5-0. Previous minutes for possible action, discussion to approve the draft minutes of the February 8th, 2023 meeting of the Vacation Home Rental Advisory Board. Any discussion, or I will entertain a motion. Michael?
Yes, I think I've said this before. I think it's good that if you want the exact wording to go to the videotape, is that an old phrase? And, because it's hard to transcribe, verbatim. So that's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Michael. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes with Michael's amendment?
I move.
Okay, thank you, Keith. A second?
So, can I say no?
Oh,
I don't know if you moved. If you moved, I second.
I don't
If you
think I
didn't move, I
moved.
moved.
yeah.
I don't
Okay,
know.
so you moved.
Second.
Second, thank you. I have a motion by Keith, second by Michael to approve the minutes from the February 8th, 2023 meeting of the Vacation Home Rental Advisory Board. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor approving the minutes, signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
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 Thank you, 5-0 on the minutes. Okay, the chairperson will read the agenda title into the public record and will have the discretion to determine how the item will be presented. The timing for agenda items is approximate unless otherwise indicated for a specific item. Agenda items may be considered ahead of or after the schedule indicated by this agenda. Public comment may be taken on items that are identified for possible action at the discretion of the chairperson. So we're on item number 2 for possible action, discussion on possible changes to Chapter 20.622 of the Douglas County Code relative to vacation home rentals in the Lake Tahoe Township. Okay, I think the best way to handle this is to have each one of the board members comment on whether you've seen any egregious errors or things that need to be changed in the red line draft. We are looking for basically typos, small changes, nothing of any large substance, because this red line is to be voted on today. So I will start, I think I'll start with you, Keith.
All right, so on page 127B, I just want to point out that if you don't reside and work, it says reside or work, it is hard to determine how you could be available 24 hours a day to respond within 30 minutes. So I would suggest, just for the sake of it, I mean, I think reside and work helps Ernie determine if you're available 24 hours a day. But I would rather strike out that part and just say you have to be available 24 hours a day within 30 minutes than I would have the word or there, because the word or is, to me, deceptive, that I could work within 30 minutes but not reside within 30 minutes, but I may be considered to be available within 30 minutes. So I would like to see either reside and work within 30, or strike that part and just say you're available 24 hours a day to respond to VHR within 30 minutes of being notified.
Okay. Is there anything else in the, what I think I'm gonna do is go through everybody's, and that way if somebody
Okay.
has a repetition of something, they don't have to say it.
Okay, no,
So-
that's all mine.
That's all you had? Okay. Michael?
Okay, so I'm on page 130, item number 4. No unit shall be approved for Tier 3 or Tier 4 VHR permit within 100 feet of any residential development. And I think I was one of the ones that was more of a proponent for this. I'm wondering if we may have come off a little strong, and maybe we should go to just Tier 4, and then in the future, if we need a Tier 3, I'm concerned, and maybe you don't even have to vote on it, but I'm concerned that eventually through attrition, you won't have any more tents. You know, I mean, that's just a concern. Maybe there's more of a planning deal, you know, they can figure out where the homes are, and would we be down in 5 years to 300 permits? It's just a thought I have. And I guess I'm not looking for a motion to change anything at this time. I'm not willing to make a motion, but I just have a concern that we may have been a little aggressive, and certainly future boards can go one way or the other. Yeah, that's my comment on that.
Okay.
Took me off guard by going this way.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay, item 6, page 135. AJ, would you mind, oh wait, is this it? No, I don't need that one. Sorry. I already figured that one out. Okay, and then, let's see here. Yes, this is a minor one. Page 140. This was at number E. I see where we re-added or rear view mirror. Is that the way the meeting ended last time? I mean, I don't care. I just remember how hard it was for me to do the rear view mirror thing. So
Where,
Where it says driver's side dashboard or rear view mirror, very last line of page 140.
oh, I thought it was.
I think that we really didn't care where it was located as long as it was visible.
Okay.
And maybe because there was a rear view mirror for some
Okay.
previous permit holders, we wanted to cover them. I'm speculating, I think that's,
I can talk to.
Okay.
Or are we gonna discuss these, or?
yeah. I just wanted to get a list of them.
But, and then we're gonna go back and
Yeah,
discuss.
yeah.
Oh, okay, because I had comments on the previous one.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Michael, anything else?
May I, Madam Chair? Next page, 141, number 10, advertising. You know, I don't know if we're getting a little too strong on how we tell them to advertise, but I would like to see in the title line, the maximum occupancy. And then to me, you know, the bedrooms aren't as important in there. But anyhow, that's what I'd like to see. So that's what we're going to do,
Okay.
discussion. And then that's it.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Patty? Patty?
Yes, I agree with Michael on page,
Oh, no, we're not doing
130.
Patty.
item number
Patty.
4.
Here we go again, Patty.
Let me get back to it.
Patty. See if she can look at,
Hey, Patty? Patty?
Yes. Yeah.
What Mickey's looking for is just what issues you have, and then we're gonna go and discuss them.
Okay, no, I really don't have anything at this time.
okay, thank you, Patty. All right, Lauren.
Okay, Keith had my with the and or, so 20 point D. I also,
Go.
I'm sorry,
Do you have the page numbers? So
I don't, but it was just his
127.
and.
Okay. Yeah, I know what they are, but
Page
it's just
127.
easier for me to.
Okay,
scroll.
I'll get them when we discuss them.
Okay.
I'm just listing what I had here. Then we made some changes in the definition of local licensed property manager and the requirements there, and it's actually .20 paragraph E, local licensed property manager. I'm sorry, I didn't know I needed to bring pages. I brought references.
Page 128.
Gotcha.
All right, I will write it down here, 128. And basically, it was brought up that in a tier 3 and 4, that the local licensed property manager would have to be within 30 minutes. And in thinking about that in the last 2 months, that you have a local emergency contact. I'm not sure that the local licensed property manager needs to be within 30 minutes, and I just wanted to revisit it and make sure that what we talked about was what people intended. I had a question on 030B3. Here I was thinking I was being so good at putting
Page
references in.
129.
What's that? 120, 129, thank you. It is in order. And that is just some terminology about making sure that we're clear that Tahoe Village is Tahoe Village as described by TRPA, and not some kind of nebulous area where this idea of adding more VHRs could slide into what I consider a normal neighborhood. And so I just will recommend wording, not calling it a community, but calling it Tahoe Village as defined by TRPA, and the amount of VHR permits issued within Tahoe Village, and not the community, which seemed a little bit more nebulous to me. But I just wanted to make sure that I've watched our intent become something other than what we intended, and I just want to try and be clear. All right, page number for 030E2.
130.
130, okay, 130. I just had a question, I believe it's okay, but I just want to have this. If more than one VHR permit was held by an owner, and what concerns me there is having a husband and a wife. I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Ames was okay at the fact that the intent was the intent. Yes, there's always gonna be somebody who might put two pieces of property in their separate names. And if they really wanna go that far to have two VHR permits, you know, but the intent is that if we don't have multiple owners, we don't have owners owning multiple places, and so we can just ask him when we get through there. 040A1 is actually the same reference as, and I'm sorry, what page number?
A1 is page 137.
137, and that is, if we discuss the hour for the local licensed property manager, that would also be the reference for a homeowner who was acting as property. So it basically is the same discussion. And then I'm gonna go out of order and go back because this is, I'm going back to 010B7, which is probably right at the beginning, page
101 what?
B7. Sounds like bingo.
I don't have a B, but I have a 7, that's page 127. Douglas County within the boundaries of TRP.
There we go. I'm sorry, I'll scratch the B, so 1017. And
Oh, you're right, B, there's B.
there is a B, okay. I have watched our intent on this paragraph get changed and bastardized, and I kind of wanted to add just some clarity. I'm trying to work within the sentence that is there. The last sentence, it is the intent of the Lake Tahoe Vacation Home Rental Ordinance to make the transitory lodging activity permitted by this chapter resemble the existing residential uses. And then I'm asking to add, in terms of occupancy, the number of vehicles, and the nature of living in a neighborhood as made by residents, owners, and lessees. It's not my favorite sentence, but I feel like it gives it the clarity that we need as to the descriptors we're using to describe what it means to resemble the existing residential uses. So that's it.
Okay.
And what page did you say that one was?
127.
Thank you.
I have some concerns, Lauren, about the introduction, because a lot of that was specifically written by the county commissioners and their staff versus definitions and that kind of thing. But that's just a side comment. I actually only have page 144, and I think it's a silly little tiny thing, but I wanted to make sure. On the very top line, after one substantiated complaints, I think that S doesn't need to be there.
It's struck through.
144.
It's struck.
Is
through.
it struck through? I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
Never
it's hard
mind
to
then.
see.
I have nothing then.
Yes, you do. Didn't you have the 100? I didn't bring it up.
What? Oh, on Tahoe Village?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought.
I didn't bring it
somebody
up.
brought Michael brought up Tahoe Village.
I can kind of state that for the record. I think I have a good handle on that issue, having spoken with
Okay,
Chairwoman Hempler and also Member Romaine before the meeting.
thank you.
So there was previous discussion by this board about the 100-foot rule and how that applies to tiers 3s and 4. There was also some discussion about how that should not apply in the Tahoe Village, not community, but to the PA.
In Tahoe
planned
Village.
area, just Tahoe Village. There was never any type of motion or conclusion reached as to whether or not that 100-foot rule should apply in Tahoe Village. And so I think the proposal would be in two different sections. On page 129, section 030B4. That section currently reads, "No unit shall be approved for a tier 3 or tier 4 VHR permit if it is within 100 feet of any other residential dwelling unit." Then the change would be to add a comma there and write, "with the exception of Tahoe Village." Similarly, on page 136, section 030, subsection I2, that section would read, "The unit is located more than 100 feet away from all neighboring residential dwellings." Then add a comma, and then the phrase, "with the exception of Tahoe Village." And then the word "and" would be there, and then adding another phrase, "and for all other, or for all residential communities, comma, the unit is sufficiently far." And then it would continue on as is. So making an exception accepting the Tahoe Village from the 100-foot rule for tier 3s and tier 4s, that would go into those two sections.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now let's go back, and I'm gonna go in page order, so let's start with page 127. And Lauren, we'll start with yours, because it's in front of Keith's,
Okay.
number 727. So it's number 7 on page 127 regarding the resemblance of existing residential uses. You had some verbiage, it seemed.
Yep. So
little
to
lengthy,
add,
but-
it is a little lengthy. Like I said, it's not my favorite sentence, but I'm trying to work in and just to get, the existing residential uses in terms of occupancy, the number of vehicles, and the nature of living in a neighborhood as made by resident owners and lessees. So I've just seen a lot of interpretation of this, and I think it just needed a little bit more, and that is what we work with. I mean, occupancy numbers, parking, and the nature of living within a neighborhood versus a party area, it's
Okay.
living. So that's my suggestion.
Discussion on that, does anyone, Keith?
Madam Chair, keep our record. I like the change because I do believe we are defining what resemble means, because resemble is a really undefined term. And I absolutely get number of occupants, number of vehicles, but I didn't know what you meant by that last phrase
I
in
know.
terms of.
And
what
the
is that?
nature of living in a neighborhood,
Yeah,
so.
what does that mean?
Well, I'm trying to incorporate the fact of you don't come in and it's just not a place, it's not a party. I mean, I may have 10 people come into my place once a week, once
A year.
yes, and that's okay, but it's just a constant go, 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 and then we all are trying to enjoy the peaceful enjoyment of a neighborhood, so it's kind of that.
Okay with the changes presented.
Michael?
I'm good with that. I think it defines it better.
Patty?
I'm good with how it is.
I'm good with how it is also.
And Mr. Ames has the wording, so.
No, I'm good with the way it is right now.
I'm sorry.
Because, like I've said at each meeting, I'm looking to simplify, not make this longer. But I obviously will go with the board, and it looked like the three of you, Michael, you were good with
I was good with her change.
I didn't know
her
what she said.
changes. And Patty, I think that you were saying you were good with the way it is now, or the changes that Lauren wanted to suggest?
I'm good with the way it is now.
Okay. Do I need to make a motion? And probably.
AJ Haynes from the DA's office, for the record, it would be up to the chair. We can just sort of make notes as the discussion proceeds and then attempt one large all-encompassing motion at the end.
That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Okay, so we know that page 127.7. Let's go down to yours, Keith, 127, and it was the and/or.
Yes, ma'am. So, but to restate what I said, the good thing about this is it says that you must be available 24 hours a day to respond to the location of the VHR within 30 minutes. To me, I'm good with that statement. Residing and working help the director determine if you would be available, because there's going to be times where you got to go to the hospital and you're not available. We know there's going to be exceptions to this. The reside and changing or to and gives the director a way to determine if they should be available.
Okay,
So I would say change or to and, but if we don't, I would want it removed and just say you must be available 24 hours a day to respond within 30 minutes. But I think the easiest change is to say or to and, reside and work.
okay, Michael?
Yeah, and I voted against Mr. Byer last time, but he has shown me the way, and I am good with and now.
Okay, Patty?
I think we could just delete some of that and just say you have to be within 30 minutes, period.
Okay, Lauren?
I would like to switch or to and the reason for that is that I think it does clarify what we mean, and this local contact person is truly the most important person of any person listed in here. They're the ones that are going to get to when there's problems and issues, and so I think it's really important that we know where they need to be.
Okay, so I've got consensus on or to and, page 127. Move on to page 130.
128.
Oh, I went out of order. 128, the tiers regarding the local property manager. Lauren, if you can, that's on E?
Yep, 20.E, we talked last time because there was the question of local licensed property managers. Keith did a wonderful job of explaining the roles. And one's reactive, one's proactive. One needs to understand, and I think the reason we need a local person is because you need to be able to answer someone who says, can I drive up without chains? Can I, that type of thing. You don't need someone in Vegas not understanding what is happening here. So, but the 30 minutes we latched onto, I think, because we were talking about local contact persons, which is very important that they're within 30 minutes, but it didn't necessarily mean that the local licensed property manager, and to me, I felt it was too restrictive when I thought about it a little bit more. So the change in wording would be must reside and work within 1 hour of the VHR.
Okay. Michael? Oh, I missed you, Patty, sorry.
Oh,
Hi.
With the property manager, I would agree with Lauren on that. I think 30 minutes is restrictive. And I wouldn't want them just to be licensed in Nevada because of if they were in Las Vegas, they don't know Tahoe and Snow. So I would like to see it revised how Lauren said.
Okay, thank you, Patty. Michael?
So, I would agree with this, and my point would be is, I don't think there's enough property managers within 30 minutes of every VHR in Tahoe Township. Does that make sense? So, we just need to expand it a little bit. In other words, there's plenty of companies, but I don't know if there's the resources to take on that much more. That's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
I firmly disagree, but I agree. So, I firmly disagree because I do think 30 minutes is important, but for the sake of consensus, I'm happy with an hour. But I want to come back to this about capacity. Remember, we have changed the requirement for local licensed property managers to tier threes and fours. We've also reduced capacity. So of the 150 current people who have 10s, most of those are going to have 8s. You're only going to have about 50 extra people. It's not all 600, it's 50 extra. And so I think there's a free market. And I come back to my point where if we believe that capacity is an issue, let's give a year transition. Let's find the right answer and make the right answer work. Let's not get the wrong answer because the right answer isn't workable. So I'm okay with an hour. I would rather keep it 30 minutes, but I'm okay with the hour for consensus building and move forward. I'm okay with an hour.
Don't we require a local contact within 30 minutes? So if the property manager's an hour away, they would contact the local contact?
That's my hope.
I mean, that would be my expectation, actually. Okay, so I guess we have some consensus on the 1 hour, so there you go there. 128, 129, I have the words nebulous written down, so.
so yeah, it is my neuroticism. Is that a word?
And that is?
That is 030B3. And I just, it's, to me, living here, it's not the Tahoe Village community, which seems like it doesn't have boundaries. And it concerns me that there wouldn't be an understanding, a true understanding of why it is that we see Tahoe Village as different versus all of the top of Kingsbury or all of some other areas. And so what I was just trying to do was be a little bit more clear on that. So instead of timeshares and hotels in the Tahoe Village, so it is Tahoe Village, in Tahoe Village as defined by TRPA, which is added as defined by TRPA, the amount of VHR's permits issued within Tahoe Village shall not exceed. So it just, community seemed like a gray boundary to me. And I do really believe we need to keep these expanded allowances to that area and not allow it to expand.
I think we discussed this at length at the last meeting with a lot of clarification from AJ that this in fact did limit this to the Tahoe Village neighborhood only. But I am willing to listen to what the other board members have to say. Patty, I'm going your way.
Okay, I thought we had that clarified in the definitions what the Tahoe Village community was. Am I misunderstanding that? I thought it was back further,
It's AJ Haynes.
because
from
we
the
had
DA's
it
office.
with the TRPA and what
Yeah,
it
Patty,
was for Tahoe Village in the
Throw a
definition.
flag.
AJ Haynes from the DA's office for the record. The proposed section 030B2A states what the boundaries of communities are. Those are based on plan area statements from TRPA. They can be modified to include adjacent parcels consistent with uses contained within, or to differentiate between distinctive neighborhoods within. So you can kind of subdivide a TRPA plan area statement, or you can pull in adjacent parcels on a parcel by parcel basis if they resemble, are consistent with the uses in that community. So that's how we define our communities. If you wanted to be more specific, and with regard to Tahoe Village, just specify that Tahoe Village, as defined by the TRPA plan area statement. I think that would be fine here. I don't know that it's necessary, but it certainly wouldn't hurt.
Michael?
No, I'm fine with the way it is.
Thank you. Keith?
I don't have a passion for this, but I think if it doesn't hurt, because you can pull other neighborhoods in, if I just heard that correctly, because you can, I would be worried about someone adjacent wanting to be part of that community because it's now 40 cap instead of 15 cap. So if it doesn't hurt, I prefer to put as defined by the TRPA in that one spot.
So Patty, did I understand that you're comfortable with making a change or comfortable with leaving it as is?
I think it's comfortable as is because it, if we go back to BA, it says the boundaries based upon TRPA. So,
Okay.
I mean, it seems like it's covered in that aspect, but if, to get consensus that you do need to add in number 3, defined by TRPA, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, what I'm concerned about is with making lots of changes that we'll end up having to come back here with a new line and completely change the order of events that are headed, that are already planned for the Planning Commission and the OCC. So I would probably want some direction from AJ as to whether we are within the scope of approving a red line with
I think if,
modifications.
AJ Haynes for the record, I think if you were to change section 3 so that it said due to the high density of timeshares and hotels in Tahoe Village, as defined by the TRPA plan area statements, and then if you kept all of the rest the same,
Okay.
I think it would satisfy Ms. Romaine's concerns, and I don't think it would
Okay.
keep us from moving forward.
Okay. Then,
Could I just,
go ahead.
could I
And
had
also, and also omitting community.
and community in the end of
Later.
that sentence? Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
I think that would be fine.
Okay. So now we're down to page 130. And let's see, Michael had something on number 4, I believe. That was on the 100-foot. And I think you kind of explained your
Already
position.
explained it. I'm really happy with the tier 4 one. I'm just not sure on the tier 3. Yes, I think it's maybe a number needs to be in there, but I'm not willing to really make a motion to change it right now. I
Okay.
think this is an excellent thing for the planning commission to look at, and that's
Okay.
where it's going. So,
Okay.
I just, there's, too many variables that could happen that you can actually cut out this program,
Okay.
so.
Just for the planning commission, to make sure we're not being capricious, let me tell you my logic for the 100. Is the hockey stick and the cliff. 10s, hockey stick. Tier 3s, next to 0. By having that 100-foot rule, not even in law, but really applying it consistently, we have eliminated complaints in tier 3s because of that 100-foot rule, I believe, primarily. The one complaint there is actually the one that is not within 100 feet that we kind of approved without that consensus. So, not to be capricious, I believe the 100-foot rule has a purpose. The secondary purpose is, remember, if the combination works and we lower occupancy, there's going to be about 55 bedrooms that are going to be the new tier 3 of 10. Without the 100-foot rule, the director is going to have a hard time approving them. That 100-foot rule allows him to approve it without it coming to the commission. So, if we're not going to propose something, that's it. But I just want to make sure we're not being capricious. And that there was a logic, I think, to having the 100-foot rule set rather than having the original one where it's got to be far enough away not to cause problems. We've seen the application of the 100-foot rule in tier 3s drive down complaints. We have very few complaints at tier 3s, which is a credit to the commission, the county commissioners in their first draft of this.
Okay, thank you, Keith. And so I'm going to eliminate that one from our discussion since you seem to be, I think it's something we should revisit after we have a year or 18 months under our belt. But for now, obviously no disrespect, Michael, but
I asked him.
you've kind of
Push it
asked,
along.
yeah. So we'll move it along. Lauren, did you have something?
Yeah, I guess too, the other thing, part of this is, I'm really hoping that this does go through because of exactly what Keith is talking about. I mean, our whole job here is to get VHRs to meld within neighborhoods, and when you see that there's not the complaints for these larger homes, because they're, more people require more space. The more space you have, the more parking you have available. Therefore, you don't create problems where parking, because, and so it is a very logical decision, and I'm really hoping that the people that take a look at this later give us this time to be able to see. And we're talking about 10 people. We're talking about places that have 10 people. And so that's not a small amount. And that's not 10 people on the one weekend for my Thanksgiving group. That is a lot of the time 6 months out of the year. So I'm really hoping that they look at that. If they have questions about this 100-foot, that they really call us and ask, because I think it truly is an important component of the whole thing.
Okay, thank you. Next is on page 130. It has the one permit per person. Interestingly that you brought that up, Lauren, because I actually ran a drill with Ernie at his office the other day asking if I had a home and my husband had a home, and and he told me the procedures they go through to double check to make sure that there isn't any funny business going on. And I'm very comfortable with the way the code reads as far as it being one permit per person after having my questions answered by what the procedure is.
If I can just ask too, Lauren Romaine for the record, I mean, I've just kind of seen it in my neighborhood, so you go to deeds and look at who's on a deed, right? Because what I've seen is a husband and a wife, one on one VHR permit, one on the other. So you go to deeds, and if those names are on there, and as long as that's taking place, I mean, there's always gonna be loopholes to everything, but.
Yeah, I can explain further. This is Ernie Stradle for the record. We don't just look at APNs, we look at the documents within the house buy. So we have access to all the documents you sign when you buy a house, so we have a lot of data. It's like, can it happen? I guess it could, but I don't think it's happened. Right.
If you want to go so far as taking your husband's name off your house, you really want it bad, so yeah, okay.
Okay, page 137, this has to do with local, licensed property managers. Lauren, I
Yep,
think this is yours.
so this all depended on what we decided up on 128, and since we decided that the 1 hour was fine, then this would be who resides. Local licensed property managers are required for all Tier 3 and Tier 4 units unless the property is managed by an owner who resides. Is it works also, to be consistent? I didn't have that in there, but resides within 1 hour of the VHR during the rental period. Do you want resides and works?
Excuse me, what page are you on?
137,
Okay,
040A1.
okay.
So I'm just trying to make it consistent because it wasn't there. So do you want resides and works within an hour? Okay.
Madam Chair?
Oh,
I'm probably okay with resides here because most of the situations are happening at night. So I'm okay with resides and not work here because if I've got a VHR here and I work in Reno, if I'm residing here, I don't really care if you happen to work in Reno. I think you can still be a good property manager. But I'm okay if you want to,
No, I'm fine.
okay, I'm okay with residing.
okay,
I'm good with keeping it.
okay. Patty, are you good with keeping the language as it's written?
Madam Chair?
Yeah, as it's written, it's fine.
Oh, well, I'm adding, we have to switch the hour.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that obviously has to move over, yeah,
Yeah, it's 60.
yeah. Okay. Okay, and the last thing here is, or two more, 140, this is on the parking placards.
Can I mean, Michael explained, was it Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah, can I jump in there if you,
Yeah, go
if we're
ahead.
gonna talk about? Lauren Romaine for the record, so, it does say the driver's side dashboard. I guess there is a rear view mirror addition, but there's a problem. You get into rear view mirror things, you have to take it down in order to drive legally. I don't think it's a good thing, but the reason that it originally said the driver's side dashboard was because it needs to be big enough so that when you're scraping 3 foot of snow off the car, to be able to see it, that you know where you have to scrape on the dashboard, and if it's on the rear view mirror, you have to scrape the whole half, and then it's too small because it's not as big as it truly needs to be. So I was hoping we could stay with the wording that was originally in the ordinance because there was a reason for it.
Okay. I don't care.
Okay?
I
That makes it simple.
think parking placards can be one or the other, and I don't think it's important enough for us to have to make a change on this red line.
And I would agree with that.
Thank you. Patty?
I like consistency, and I think I agree with Lauren. I think if we have one spot on the dashboard, no one has to remove it from the rear view mirror where it might be so big that they can't see it. And then normally people, when they take something down from the rear view mirror, they just throw it down in the cup holder or something like that, where if it's on the dashboard, it's standard that that's where it has to display. And the chances of people moving it around are less, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I think it should just be removed.
Thank you. Keith?
I'm kind of like you, but a little, so I don't have any concern about this, but just out of deference, there's only one member on this board who works at a HOA who has to actually clear snow, who's gone through the situation of actually having to use these. So just out of deference to Lauren, I think I would side with Patty and Lauren that we remove rearview mirror. And I do understand too, Beach Club for a while had the mirrored things and it bothered me. I didn't put it on most of the time because put it down, taking it out, put it down, taking it up was troublesome. The dash is always there. You can keep it there. So my preference would be to remove it, to remove rearview mirror.
So, AJ, there's some consensus. Page number 141, and this is, is this yours, Lauren?
I don't think so.
Mine, I think
Oh.
it was.
Um,
The advertisements?
Oh, the advertisements. That's what ADV means in my notes.
That's a good abbreviation.
Not that Keith has ADD as well.
Yeah, so.
That was on the side.
So I'd like to read this here, so, on number 10.
Yeah, real quick, Michael,
Yeah.
I think it's my understanding, and maybe AJ, you could even say this more legalese than me, but the advertisement, what we didn't want was in the headline, it's saying 10 beds,
No.
or sleeps 20. We wanted it to say occupancy 10.
Yeah.
And then in the body of it, you put the bedrooms and that kind of thing, so that people will be a little bit more respectful of what the occupancy is.
This is AJ Haynes from the DA's office for the record. As written, it doesn't require anything to be in the listing title. So you could just say beautiful Lake Tahoe home. And that would be compliant. The only thing it does is it prohibits you from listing an occupancy or a bedroom number within that title. So currently, any bedroom or bed number is not to be included within the listing title.
But occupancy can be, right?
Now, it states the number of bedrooms and beds may be included within the body of any advertisement or listing, but the number of bedrooms and/or beds shall not be included within the title of any advertisement or listing. So you, as written, it prohibits you from stating occupancy or beds at all.
But occupancy has nothing to do with number of bedrooms and beds.
Right.
Well, yeah, I guess you could do occupancy, but
Yes.
it
Yeah.
doesn't, you can't say in your listing, even if your occupancy was 10, as written, you wouldn't be able to say 5 beds.
Right,
Or,
That's fine.
right, okay.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
there's the answer. So Michael, what would you like to do?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we need to include occupancy, because it doesn't say that.
Okay, we're not making a motion
okay.
until the
Make a
end
motion.
when we make
Oh,
all of
sorry,
the changes,
sorry,
that's
we're not
okay.
done yet.
But you would like to suggest some verbiage that says occupancy is allowed in the title?
Well, the only reason I thought it was important is because it just lets the renter know right away what the number is, without them scanning through beds and saying, oh, there's a lot of beds. That's my thought.
Okay. Keith?
I would be okay requiring occupancy. The reason I didn't think we needed it, and the reason I think we needed to prohibit it, just to make sure we're not capricious, is I was going through a logical process of renting a VHR, which I have done many, many times. And I go in and I type my occupancy. And because of that, I get a listing of places that meet my occupancy requirements or more. And so that's why I didn't think we needed the occupancy in the title, because the search is giving me that. Then I was trying to figure out why I would put the number of bedrooms or beds in the title, and I couldn't figure that out unless you were trying to tell people, hint, hint, you can get more people here. If you want to bring your cousins after you've rented, there's plenty of room for them. So that's how I got comfortable with the language. But if I would rapidly reach a consensus that you have to put your occupancy number in the title, if that's where the consensus was. That was my logic on how to get comfortable with what's written, but I'm not adverse at all to requiring the occupancy in the title. It's just a lot of people like to advertise with the title, beautiful mountainside, just a number of words, so I'm okay either way, but I do want the prohibition of the number of beds not in the title. It's too easy to try to figure out how to get around occupancy requirements.
Thank
And I
you.
don't know why you would do that if you're not trying to do that.
Right.
Patty?
I don't really have a problem with it. I think to kind of, with my real estate background, when you advertise homes, it was always how many bedrooms and bathrooms. But a VHR is a little bit different. I would like to see it, occupancy in there, and then leave the rest pretty much the same.
Okay. Lauren?
I kind of didn't want to make it, I'm sorry, I am auditory and then. I agree with you. If I was queen for a day, I would say, put the advertisement, that's what it must be, okay? So I agree with you. In trying to deal with this issue that kind of came up as we were going through, there was a person that was brought down in occupancy, and the advertisement changed, and the title said 15 beds, and you could just see it. So I want to fix the bad actors, and I also don't want, and I'd love it if I could say you have to put the occupancy. Apartment for, sorry.
Sorry for my messages. I just wanted to confirm you're cleaning this very contents have been updated.
Should we take a break for an hour and a half
I'm so
so
sorry.
you can answer
No,
all
no,
32
no.
messages?
Why won't the volume's all the way down? So why doesn't it be quiet? Okay. So sorry. Okay, so I also don't want to make it where the staff has to now look to make sure that's there. It's a difference. And what I'm trying to do is fix the problem of the bad actors putting bedrooms in the title. And even though it would be nice to have occupancy, because I think it would help people, because I've run into a lot of people. There was a 10 occupancy and he had 20 people, and I was talking to him, he's very nice. And I said, you do know the occupancy of that place is 10, and he had no clue. So I do think it would be great. I think it would help our situation. I'm just concerned about making these guys now have to watch that versus stopping bad actors, and I'm not sure where I stand with it. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
And that was basically going to be my question, does this put more burden on the admin department to have one more thing yet to look for? Or is this something that down the road, again, when we revisit, do we look at it and say, yeah, people are taking advantage of the situation? I don't know that answer. Ernie, is this a burden that would be put on your office? Because looking at all those ads for 600 units is a big deal.
Ernie Strelo for the record. I have 2 code enforcement officers. One of them is patrolling, one of them is investigating, so it's, if they're investigating that, they're not gonna be able to investigate other things that they may be doing. So, it's just, there's gonna be a capacity at some point on what they can handle. But they can check, they do check ads, so they do get calls on ads, they check on ads.
Madam Chair, that was my comment. Are you saying they don't regularly check ads? Because I thought they were already checking ads
They do.
anyway. This is just one more thing to think about in the title. But in other words, if we were saying you have to check ads, I'm all with you, but let's not put more burden on the people trying to generate 600 permits a year. That's a lot of permits a year, it's a lot of permits a week, a lot of permits a day. But I think you're looking at the ads anyway, and it's a pretty quick check.
Lauren?
So to me, there's a difference between you must have and you cannot. So yes, they check ads, but it's something they had to check for versus something you just have to look and make sure it's not there. Do you know what I'm saying? And it seems like it's easier to me to just, you're looking at ads and you go, it's fine, and, you know, versus do they have, it's a more of a proactive thing, and that's where I didn't want to get to.
Yeah, Ernie Strelo, for the record, Bonnie is doing a good job. She goes through the suspected ads, and she knows what she's looking for. She's very skilled at it, so.
So this is okay with,
It seems to be. I would have to ask her what that does, but, for right now, it seems okay.
Okay, let's see where we stand, because this is actually the last exception on the list.
Was
Do-
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, were you gonna tell me what they wanted me to say?
No.
Because I may not know.
The only, I had, first, was there some kind of consensus about subsection 10 that we've just discussed with advertisements, or was there not?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to the
Oh,
bottom of
I'm
right
sorry.
now. Yeah. Is, Michael would like to make the change where occupancy is in the heading. Keith,
I'm okay with that. I'll be in the, I'll be part of that.
okay, Patty,
Yeah, I'd like to see the occupancy in the heading, and I don't think.
Can you turn her back
it
up?
matters if you put maximum occupancy, if you put the bedrooms and the bathrooms in there.
and can someone tell me what she said?
I know, because I heard it, but I didn't understand
She's
it.
okay with the change,
Okay,
adding the maximum occupancy.
Okay, we'll just go with the changes.
okay, and Lauren?
I'm not sure I know what the changes are.
Requiring that occupancy be in the header.
So are we
Of an
also saying that you
advertisement.
cannot put bedrooms
Well, that's
in there?
already in the red line, that's in the body.
Okay, I don't know.
of it.
I'm
We're
try-
just talking
okay.
about the header of.
Madam Chair, can I jump in?
Sure.
This is AJ Hames for the record. As I understand it, the proposed revision would make subsection 10 read as follows. Advertisements for the vacation home rental must not misrepresent the occupancy of the VHR. And you would add a sentence there that says, occupancy shall be listed within the title of any advertisement or listing, period. And then you would continue on with what we already have there.
Is that good?
Yep.
Okay, Patty, that's good with you?
Can you?
That's good.
Excuse,
She's good with, I'm good with that.
okay. So,
All right.
obviously, there's a consensus, so there we have it. All right,
And Madam Chair, the last change was to sections 030B4 and I2, dealing with a 100-foot rule exception for Tahoe Village.
oh,
Yeah.
yes. What page number was that? Oh, 130 and 136, those are my notes. Correct. Do we want to let's have some discussion. Is there any reason you wouldn't want to? Because I believe we did put in Tahoe Village as an exception.
Beach, and I think if you actually went back and pulled those white overhead things, I think that was part of the Tahoe Village carve-out.
I believe that to be the case too, but
And
I
we
don't
can
want
oversight, yeah.
to, I don't want to assume anything. Michael, I know you were kind of, this is Tahoe Village though, not, they'd be carved out that they wouldn't fall under the 100-foot rule.
That's fine.
Patty?
Yes.
Yes, you're good with that? I know you're good with that. Okay, so,
Madam Chair, if it would be helpful, I could list all of the
Yes.
proposed final revisions.
yes.
I don't have the page numbers, but if you just, we'll start at the beginning, section 010B7. After existing residential uses, adding the phrase, in terms of occupancy, the number of vehicles, and the nature of living in the neighborhood. In section 020D, in the final, let's see, the final sentence, changing or to and, in 020E, changing reside or work to reside and work within 1 hour of the VHR. In 030B3, adding clarification that Tahoe Village is defined by TRPA Plan Area Statement, and removing the word community. In 030B4, stating following the sentence, no unit shall be approved for a tier 3 or tier 4 VHR permit if it is within 100 feet of any other residential dwelling unit, and adding the phrase, comma, with the exception of Tahoe Village. In 030I2, similarly adding an exception for Tahoe Village, but still requiring that all residential communities, including Tahoe Village, be sufficiently far from their neighbors to not create a nuisance. In 040A1, changing the last sentence to homeowners who reside within 1 hour of the VHR during the rental period. In 040C5, removing the reference to the rear view mirror, requiring then that the parking placard be placed on the dashboard. And I do think there may be another reference to the rear view mirror in another section, and so the change would apply to that section as well.
Okay.
I should probably find that.
5. That's page 140, paragraph 5.
Yep.
Yeah, and then also in section C5, well, it's C5, removing the reference to the rear view mirror, and then, let's see.
Page 160.
140, section 9E, removing that reference to the rear view mirror,
And I'm seeing,
and then,
This is 11, it's 11.
oh, sorry,
It's 11, on page 141.
140, yeah, 149E and 141, 11. That one states dashboard, so that one would be fine.
how about 40C5 on page 160?
That's what we had
Oh,
started.
okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
So C5 we have, and then we're also just adding C9E. Let's see.
Yes.
Removing the reference to the rearview mirror in both C5 and C9E. And then the final revision would be to 040C10, adding occupancy shall be listed within the title of any advertisement or listing. Those were the proposed changes, and so at this time, Madam Chair, my recommendation would be to move to public comment.
That's my recommendation too. Okay, at this time, we will open public comment on this item, number 2, about the changes we've discussed. Anybody have public comment? Come up to the podium, write your name, state your name, and your 3 minutes will start.
So my name is Andre Geziek. I'm owner along Kingsbury. I've had a permit, now it's my 2nd year. I just could start after that moratorium. And you know, my bookings went down 30% starting January 1st, so the economy is a concern. I think generally, you try to legalize this whole thing. You know, if you're a responsible owner, have had no complaints. Yeah, because I'm not sure I'm going to keep doing that forever if it's so difficult to get these renewals and everything and the cost. You know, I can tell you the housekeepers I have who live half an hour away, they're very happy with the job I'm giving them, and they keep telling me this, you know, and they're also concerned because there was a plan to cancel everything. One particular note about the insurance too, I noticed you want to force us to have $1 million insurance and forbid people to be able to use the umbrella. I think it's a bad idea. That's what the umbrella is for, you know. And again, if you make it too difficult, I mean, it's good revenue for the county that I know of. It brings good jobs to people. It helps the economy. It's kind of high value guests. they will spend their money at the Chart House and other places. This is a good thing. So I'm just concerned about all of this stuff. Now, and the titles of the listings, you want to be careful here because, you know, I work with Airbnb and VRBO. It's very particular, the titles you put in there. If you want to add all kinds of things in there, you may go into some issues. I mean, it's very easy to provide the maximum occupancy in the listing. There's various places to do it, and you can check my listings. So generally, I'm very concerned about this whole thing, to be quite honest with you. And I came here, you know, very open. Okay, this is a pretty interesting thing, very touristy place. I know there's problems, but it's not my fault. You know, I know there's only 50,000 residents and 15 million tourists, but that's where your job is, you know. Find a way to get lower price housing for the people who need it. You can't blame it on the VHR owners who actually are helping things out there too.
30 seconds.
Yeah, and generally, you know, hotels, fine. I mean, if you end up forbidding VHRs, you'll have only the people in the hotels. I don't know if in the end of the day they provide the best income to you for whatever reason. It's weird, but they end up always paying less taxes for some whatever reason. And this is not going to be good for this area. So yeah, solve the housing problem separately and let us bring some kind of really nice value visitor here who come here with their money spending, and generally things should be good.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
I'm Ellie Waller. I'm going to address two that you talked about, but one I think segues into one you didn't speak of. On page 129, 3 at the bottom of the page where you were moving the word community and cleaning that up, there's another portion in that statement that needs clarity and fixing. It shall not exceed 40% of the total number of dwelling units located within that community. Maybe change the word community to neighborhood, just to keep the community word out of there. My second comment is on page 141, where you talked about the advertisements, putting in the occupancy, and you're going to list bedrooms somewhere else. My following comment you did not discuss, but it's on page 131E, where you state the proposed number of bedrooms that may be rented. So if a house has 10 bedrooms, you're only going to rent 8, you're asking for photographs. In the past, I've been very confused with the packets as I've looked at them, because they'll give you all 10 bedrooms. We don't know which bedrooms people are going to use, and I just think it does help by listing occupancy. We have to be cautious, and again, this is the burden on admin again, is if it says occupancy 10, they show you 12 bedrooms, it just adds some confusion. So I don't think it's fixable, but I'm just bringing that one up. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. Additional public comment?
Chad Smith. Having to list the maximum occupancy in your title, whether it's on Airbnb and Vrbo, just doesn't make any sense. I think you guys are just like over analyzing things. It's already on the platform that we are running it. And you also have this thing that you put out, and I guess I don't have it with me right now, but it's the requirements that we agree that we're going to advertise our property in a certain way, and there are all these things that need to be on there. And Ernie, you've gotten some emails between myself and Kate, the other Katie. So we already have to show that we're going to advertise the property for the maximum occupancy, the number of stalls, the parking, all of that. So now it's like, what, you're going to make us put on our title that it's maximum occupancy again, so it's gotta be in there like 2 places. Let's just not overdo all of this stuff. It's just getting to the point where you're not gonna solve any problems by doing that. I mean, really. I mean, how do you even check, how does code enforcement even check the occupancy? It's kind of up to the owners to take responsibility for that and to make sure that the occupancy is what it's supposed to be, but requiring us now to put in the header, maximum occupancy, when it's already on the listing platform, it shows the occupancy level, the number of bedrooms, what the bedrooms are. It's like you're trying to negotiate something here that just doesn't make all that much sense. And quite honestly, I don't get where your thinking is. I don't think maybe any of you do. It's like, if you are an owner and you live in the area, do you have to, how long do you have to be in the area? I mean, in one part it says a resident is considered somebody that lives here for 180 days. So does that mean if you own a VHR and you're going to manage it yourself, do you have to live in the state and in the county every day of the year, except for, you know, a visit to the hospital, so you can't take a vacation? And where does your contact person, do they have to be an hour away? Do they have to live in Douglas County? I don't think you guys even understand what you're doing at this point. You really need to table this or discuss this a little bit more to give us some clarity, because right now it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Okay.
Hi, Michelle May, for the record, permit holder. I'm a little confused on the local contact. I mean, as an owner, if you're the local contact, you should, in my opinion, be able to reside or work within 30 minutes. But again, if we have an hour to resolve problems, we don't start resolving, we resolve them the minute they start. So we should have the flexibility of that, in my opinion, either or. I guess my concern as I look at this as a whole is that I think in terms of the goals of these regulations, in the big picture, when you look at this and how few complaints we really have, who the bad actors are, what types of violations, I think we need to ask, what is the real agenda? I think the regulations in purpose or practice, is it to destroy the short-term rental program by overreach with nonsensical written and application of regulations? Or are they there to solve problems of some bad actors in the program? Is the goal to weed out the bad actors, or is it really regulating good actors out of business? The board here talks about equity and fairness. Are we talking about treating permit holders and the guests fairly and equitably? Or are we using regulations to redistribute wealth and fairness according to some other agenda or political ideology? I think the board must be mindful to assess their outcomes and their actions, not just words or good intentions, but to scrutinize political ideology from seeping into our program inadvertently or otherwise. Good actors, those that follow the rules, should not be overregulated, their permits slowly diminishing or being extinguished because of overregulation. Regulation which is not practical, does not solve the problems, is too subjective when applied, or gives too much power, or too few too much power. I think you should use grandfathering with permits who do it right. They should not be subject to overreach and more regulation, limiting or eliminating their short-term licenses on a continuous basis with tools that do not work, 100-foot designations that penalize destroyed permits regardless of permit good standing. Grandfathering creates a floor that protects good actors and permits wherever and whenever they are or enter the program. In terms of noise monitors, they don't work. They're not reliable, the technology isn't consistent, and they go off when they're not even accurate because of weather and waves and wind. The 100-foot rule, I think, is unfair. It's impractical, penalizing property owners who do it right.
30
You're
seconds.
wiping out most permit holders for absolutely no legitimate reason. Trash, get a pad. Lock the bear boxes with a pad, a lock pad. Nobody's going to be able to get in. We work hard to keep our licenses. We go through immense scrutiny. We do the best we can because we know what we have to lose. I really advise this board to scrutinize their own actions, including political ideologies, that are always a threat to prevent inequity or inequality and unfairness. Be fair and equitable in writing and applying these rules before you start limiting or destroying permit holders. Thank you.
Additional public comment?
Oops, I took your paper
there.
Sorry. There you go.
My name is Nancy Greenhall, and I'm a permit holder from Elk Point. And a lot of what she was just saying, I mean, I guess my first thing is, I just pulled up my listing, and it says, right here, it says 2-bedroom, 2-bath, sleep 6. That is required by Verbo. That's the first thing there, says sleep 6. If anybody trying to rent it puts in any number over 6, they will not even let them make the reservation. Right below it, I have, you know, my Tahoe cabin where I'm trying to draw attention. If I am required to put in their maximum occupancy, it's an exact repeat of what is, and I'll be glad to send my phone around if anybody wants to look at it. It is redundant, and it is going to limit us from advertising our units by saying, you know, and they cannot. They have to put in the number of people they plan to bring, or it will not recognize it. So I think that that is a little bit overkill. I have to think of all the things I was trying to remember to say. I am, as like the gentleman, not right before me, but before, I'm pretty confused by this whole idea of, you know, we were required to have an emergency contact within a half an hour, which I have done. And now it sounds like you're trying to make everybody have mandatory managers if they're a tier 2, or, you know, that's been considered. Is that still the case? It is not, because I have always managed my own. I am 45 minutes from my door in Reno, South Reno, to here. And I know, I have rented hundreds of Verbos over the year, and it is so obvious which vacation rentals are managed by the owners because they truly care. It's their money, it's their thing. I think that you want to very much try to have managers. I understand people who live further away. For several years, I was allowed to be my emergency contact, and then it got changed to 1 hour, and I could no longer do it. I can guarantee you, I know more what's going on, I can answer the questions better, and I think we are coming to Elks Point, which I'm sure most of you realize, is the most contentious neighborhood there is. Our bad actors are the anti-vacation rental people who harass us and harass the enforcement people to ridiculous levels.
25 seconds.
In 5 years, there has not been a major party, there has not been a major problem at all of any kind, but we've had lots of complaints. Making it mandatory that we have to put in there is just going to give them one more reason to come after us. My daughter was up here 2 weeks ago. She didn't have a parking tag. They turned me in for that. It was ridiculous. This is what we put up with all the time. You giving them more energy to harass us is not in anybody's best interest.
Tim Barrowby for the record. I would like to thank you for the suggestions that you've come up with. I particularly support the 15% and eliminating the +2. 75% of the permit holders, the last one is in Reno, live outside of Douglas County. I live in Douglas County, and I experience VHRs all the time. My neighbors are not the problem. Whenever there's a problem in my neighborhood, it's always a VHR. Please don't bend to the wishes of those who don't live here and don't have to put up with our noise, traffic, garbage, etc. Get it passed now. Don't deliberate it. Don't postpone it. Not everybody likes what you're doing on both sides. Just get it done. Thanks.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Bring it back to the board. for further discussion and then a motion. I would also like, after we have a motion, I would like to hear from everybody. So let's start with, unless there's more discussion, let's start with a motion. And what I need in the motion is direct staff to bring back red line changes to chapter 20.622 to reflect the proposed changes as approved by the VHR advisory board with the following amendments. And
Madam
then,
Chair, sorry, can I interject? The recommended motion within the packet there, I would actually recommend that you deviate from that.
okay,
I think the recommended motion would be to approve the red line
okay,
with changes and to direct staff to submit the red line to the Board of County Commissioners,
okay.
which will of course pass through the Planning Commission, but
So moved.
however you want to phrase that.
So you've made a motion. Okay,
And for the record, I think that the motion would include the edits as previously discussed to sections 010B7, 020D, 020E, 030B3, 030B4, 030I2, 040A1, 040C5, 040C9E, and 040C10. Is that the motion?
okay, I have,
So moved.
okay, so I have a motion from Lauren, a second by Keith. Before we go to the vote, I think I've asked all of you to just prepare some comments on why you're going to vote the way you're going to vote, and
Can we see if there's-
what your experience has been. What's that?
I just didn't know if there just were any other comments.
Well, they
With-
can make them with their comments.
Well, I prepared comments.
Yeah.
But that's not, we did discuss a lot here. Was there anyone who thought differently and wanted to revisit anything we talked about today? I guess it's, we're
You wanna
talking
go
about. Well,
Does anyone have any, well, we can do further discussion so after
Yeah.
we make our comments, and then we can have our vote. But I will do it your way if you want. I mean, I thought we kind of discussed everything, but does anyone have further discussion on the things we've come to consensus on outside of the red line? I know, I don't. Keith is no, Michael's no, Patty?
No.
Okay, Lauren?
I'll not have any more.
Okay. Let's start with Keith.
So I know you're gonna ask yourself, how long is he gonna talk? And it's 12 and a half minutes. But after spending hours in this room, I think 12 and a half minutes is due payback. Our task has been a very difficult one. We've been asked to balance two very fundamental principles: the ability to do with your property as you see fit, and the principle of peaceful enjoyment of your property. I admire each of my fellow board members for the hard work you've done. Our views are far from identical, as are our perspectives. Two of us have permits. Two of us do not have permits. Two currently have VHR permits and actively rent out their primary residence. And one previously held a property primarily as a VHR rental. We brought our own perspectives to this task, had robust debate, often changed our views, and reached consensus where we could. We've met for close to a year and a half now. We've listened to hour upon hour upon hour of public comment, both at a macro level of regulation and a micro level of individual properties seeking Tier 3 permits and the appeals of fines issued. We've heard hours of public comment from permit holders, from management companies, and from neighbors. As I prepared for this vote, I wanted to start with a fresh view. I take the public comments very seriously. Do we know what we're doing? I wanted to consider all public comment we've heard and challenge my views. So I started with my consideration of a very basic question. Is the current state of the VHR program the desired state? There are indications put forth that it may be at the desired state, that the current regulations have reduced the disturbances in our neighborhoods to an acceptable level. When you look at the logged complaints, there are a very small percentage of total rental nights, as many of the complaints have not been proven. But from this process, I know that the complaint data is incomplete, and I suspect by a significant magnitude. The vast majority of Tier 3 properties that came before our board for consideration of the special use permit had no registered complaints. Yet when we heard hour after hour of neighbor complaints, we heard they had called the permit holders, they had called the county, they had called the sheriff, but their complaints were not in the logs. We cannot know what we do not know. We have no idea how many disturbances are not included in the database of complaints. But everything I do know makes me believe that the exclusions are significant. I had to witness one of my neighbor's faces when she told me she'd called the VHR hotline twice to complain, and I had to inform her that her complaint was not listed in the complaint log that we had seen. In short, I do not believe the current state of the VHR program is the desired state. As a general rule, I do not like rules. We should only have rules as a last resort. My next consideration was perhaps the code is fine, we just need more enforcement. We've heard that over and over in public comment, let's get rid of the bad apples. My desire would be for enforcement to work. Enforcement is one aspect that everyone agrees on. Permit holders, neighbors, everyone. If we can remove the permits from properties causing problems, this issue would go away. I believe enforcement is a key to achieving the desired state. But my concern is that enforcement has a very small chance of being the entire solution. We all enjoy living in a country, a state, and a county that respects the rule of law, which includes due process. That due process requirement, the burden of proof needed to issue a fine or revoke a permit, is proper and justifiable, but it limits the effectiveness of enforcement. I've thought long and hard about enforcement, whether it alone can move the needle, and I don't think it can. Processes and procedures can always be improved, but there are limitations that cannot be overcome. Noise violations are the most significant source of complaints. They are a violation of the law. We have sheriff deputies that enforce the law. Code enforcement officers, by design, do not deal with noise violations in progress. Deputies rightly prioritize calls. Weekend nights, when noise disturbances are most likely, is also the time the casino corridor sees the most disturbances, some of which are violent. Sheriff deputies are tasked with handling those noise complaints in our neighborhoods, but it is an unreasonable expectation they will always be available to be on site during a noise disturbance. I could walk you through similar logic about parking and code enforcement, but the outcome is the same, so I'll save you some time. It is unreasonable that we will enforce our way to eliminate parking issues. My belief is that enforcement is a vital aspect of the program, but due to inherent limitations, it will play a secondary role in achieving the desired state. I wish that was not the case. If I believed enforcement was the key, my job here would be easy, more enforcement. But the facts tell a different story. To date, coming up on 2 years after we hired code enforcement officers and funded more deputies, not a single permit has been revoked due to violations. While tweaks are always possible, I have an inherent belief that our sheriff's deputies and code enforcement officers are doing the best they can. The belief that enforcement will rid the system of bad apples and will go merrily on our way in harmony is simply unrealistic. So if enforcement is not the entire answer, what is? When we started our debate on potential change to the code, I made a statement that we should not change the code simply to change the code. While everyone had their hot button issues, we needed to focus on a few but impactful changes. The primary change that meets that criteria is reduction of occupancy. The biggest issues we see are noise and parking. Trash is a very distant third. Common sense tells us all three are driven by occupancy. More people, more noise. More people, more cars, more parking issues. More people, more trash, more overfilled bear boxes. I believe reducing occupancy to 2 per bedroom will significantly reduce noise and parking violations. I also listen to public comment. Some argue that 2 per bedroom is too low and point to hotels which often allow 4 per bedroom. I believe this is a false analogy. Hotels have on-site management. Other than True Host, VHRs do not. Most hotels have on-site security. VHRs do not. Hotels have parking lots. VHRs do not. Hotels are zoned in commercial areas. VHRs are built on the side of a mountain with streets that are steep and narrow and have blind turns. I don't think many people would accept VHRs described as hotels in residential neighborhoods. A clearer analogy would be to compare them to long-term rentals. While not a law, many landlords in both private houses and apartments limit occupancy to 2 per bedroom. The correlation of occupancy to noise and parking violations is common sense, but it's also backed up with data. Incomplete data, impure data, but data. The only data we have. I mentioned before that I believe the complaint data is dramatically incomplete, but there are correlations included in this subset that are striking. There are roughly the same number of VHR permits issued for 6 occupancy, 8 occupancy, and 10 occupancy. But the complaints are heavily skewed to higher occupancy, being 8 for 6 occupancy, 0 for 6 occupancy, 8 for 8 occupancy, and 45 for 10 occupancy. In other words, the 10 occupancy VHRs have a 536% more complaints than 8 occupancy, even though there's roughly the same number of permits. Likewise, 8 occupancy has significantly more complaints than VHRs less than 8. While the data is imperfect, the correlation is clear. Nearly all complaints are for occupancy of 8 and above, while they only account for roughly half of the active permits. Occupancy is closely related to complaints, and I believe lowering the occupancy will move us closer to the desired state. As you'll recall, I was a proponent of having occupancy more closely match neighborhoods and be 1 per bedroom plus 2, but I'll respect the consensus of the group. My second change I believe in that would move the needle is a requirement for local management on certain properties. Local management either being a permit holder who resides locally during the rental permit or a local professional management company. Common sense says local management provided by either a local permit holder or a professional management company is more effective than remote management. We had a public comment from a local property manager that contrasted local property management to remote property management, even if the remote property management had a local presence of junior staff. I've read various comments from renters on VRBO and Airbnb. I saw issues arise when management was not proactive. Close proximity enables proactivity. We saw instances recently where it takes someone in Tahoe looking out a window to understand the issues of snow accumulation. Reading Tahoe weather reports in Arizona is simply not equivalent. I have considered if local contacts can substitute for local management and came to the conclusion they cannot. By definition, local contacts are reactive. Local contacts, even when they're working as required by the regulation, react to issues that have arisen. Management is proactive. They work in an effort to prevent issues from occurring. As we listen to public comment and even feedback from county commissioners, we've seen example after example of local contacts not reacting as required, much less expecting proactive efforts, which they're not required to do. Nevada law requires licensing to act as a manager of the VHR. You simply cannot ask or require local contacts to serve as property management and not run afoul of this law. I was in favor of requiring local management of VHRs with occupancy of 8 and over. That's where we see the spike in complaint data. However, based on public comment from a minority of permit holders, the board reached a consensus only to require local property management, either via permit holder being local or local property management firm for VHRs with occupancy of 10 or more, and I will support the consensus. The current red line has other changes I think are good, but time does not allow me to express my logic. But understand, I have agreed to these changes using the same robust process I have these major changes. There are items such as equal access to permits that I would have liked to have seen considered and included. There are some items where I don't think we went far enough, but I respect the opinions of my fellow board members, and I always remember that I could be wrong. Given those caveats, I support the red line as currently proposed. 12 and a half minutes.
Nice. Thank you, Keith. That's a tough act to follow, Michael.
Mine will be 30 seconds. So, I'm proud of this board. No matter if you agree or disagree with the position of my fellow board members, they made a tremendous effort. For me, personally, the experience of reviewing the ordinances has been challenging and rewarding all at the same time. I've tried to balance the program needs of owners, managers, with the residents who actually have to live next door to the VHRs in Tahoe Township. Often, seeing that each change to the ordinance could have a positive or negative impact to one side or the other. One part of the process that was important to me was public comment. So much, really, public comments came through. Your public comments at times would tip the balance between which way I would vote. And I appreciate the public. So, though I was in the minority on several votes, my personal feeling is that we're sending on a document that will overall improve the VHR program. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Michael. Patty?
Hi. I just want to congratulate all the board members. I think we have different views. We can't please everybody all the time, but it's one of the best groups that I've been associated with being on 3 different boards. I do take public comment very seriously. I am so happy that we have had so much public comment. It is a very hot issue, and I don't think that we can please everybody all the time. We just have to do our best. And I think we've got a great board that we can all have different views, and we can try and come to consensus, even though there are items that I didn't disagree on. But we have to try and get the bad apples out without trying to penalize all the people who have permits, who are doing a really great job. And it's hard. And it's hard to think of that all the people that have permits that are doing such a great job that we have to specify because of all these bad apples. And it's tough. Also, I think now that we've got a great, code enforcement where they're starting to take action, coordinating with some of the law enforcement, that's going to help, but it's not going to solve everything. And a lot of these things, it seems like we are trying to penalize the permit holders that are doing such a great job, but that's part of being in this process and having a VHR. And I think that with this board, and I feel like we're meeting the challenges, there's always going to be new challenges coming up. Change is always a good thing, although sometimes it might not seem like it, and we seem like we're getting penalized. But gradually, I think as we get the bad apples out, we can do changes and resolve everything and make it conducive for the other residents that are surrounded by the VHRs. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Lauren?
So I wrote some comments also. It's only 22 minutes, so okay, and I don't normally write stuff, so I'm a terrible reader, but I'll give it a try. First, it's important to remember our goals and beliefs while we provide the structure for the VHR program. The first goal is to make this program work. That is done by melding VHRs into the surroundings and ensuring that they do not inundate the neighborhoods. The second goal is to reduce the 3 major problems of noise, parking, and trash, while remembering that balance is key to all of this. The last belief is that all neighborhoods are neighborhoods, All areas in Tahoe Township have a majority of people that are trying to live, work, and peacefully enjoy their homes, whether they are multifamily or single-family structures. The only exception is Tahoe Village, which has many hotels and timeshares. Last belief is the robust enforcement is key to any of this working, and I am not speaking about illegal units, but instead the quality of life enforcement issues that arise, noise, parking, and trash. And of course, Keith just puts things in. I would have to agree also, enforcement has its limitations, and so unfortunately we have to have rules for the bad actors. Noise, parking, and trash as the three major quality of life issues, they are driven by occupancy. The more people, the more of these problems. So let's talk about the +2. So I took a random two streets in a neighborhood. There's 65 homes, 14 VHRs. The average full-time resident and seasonal occupancy of those the ones that are full-time and seasonal, is 1.75. The average VHR occupancy is 8. When all are occupied, there are 88 full-time and seasonal, and 112 VHR renters. Renters outnumber the residents, even the seasonal residents, if you include those in there, by 25%. I can see where residents see the VHR renters as an invasion. By eliminating the +2, we are now no longer putting people in every nook and cranny, which is like one of my favorite statements, every nook and cranny every weekend. In this random neighborhood, if we reduce the +2, you reduce 28 people out of these two streets. The numbers are now 88 residents, to include seasonal, and 84 renters. Think of the impact that 28 less people on two streets would be on noise, parking, and trash. If you find those numbers interesting, then compare those renters to just full-time residents. So in this neighborhood of two streets, the neighborhood has 39 full-time residents. And if you just say those and the seasonal don't come up, you've got 112 renters with the numbers we have right now. I won't go there, but that does illustrate the cause of neighborhoods with a sense of that where they feel inundated by renters. On the 100-foot rule, we're talking about houses that consistently fill up with 10+ people, all looking to have fun, relax, and not worry about irritating neighbors. And I've been there. I rent out Airbnbs all the time. It is only logical that the more people there are, the more room they should have in a unit and from each unit, in addition to having more room to park. I believe we are only asking for problems when a residence of 2 people shares a wall with these same 10 people. More people require more room. It is just common sense. And we aren't eliminating those people if they don't meet the 10. They just have to reduce their occupancy to what is required, which then melds more into the neighborhood. So it's not that they can't exist, it's just that they have to have a smaller number. I too am proud of the work this group has done. We asked for ideas. We debated those ideas to the point of many rolling eyes. And that's okay. Is it perfect? No, but it is all interwoven, and I am hopeful that the process going forward and the community and the committees that need to approve these changes understand the tireless and detailed work that was done by these committees and county staff. We have always been open to new suggestions. We have discussed all that we have received. At this point, my hope is that both the planning committee members look for reasonableness and not start to pull at the strings. The time for new ideas and reinventing the wheel is behind us. I am available to meet with anyone. I will make that a priority. I hope they call and ask questions. I hope they understand that by changing one thing, it changes others, which then have unintended consequences. I ask that if it is reasonable, then you let it go to the commissioners as is, and that they respect the work that is done here. Thank you.
Okay. I want to just say thank you to my advisory board members for giving me the honor of chairing this committee. I really appreciate the vote of confidence. Thank you as well for all the hours of work that were done at these meetings, as well as independently done at home. I want to thank the public for their comments. They've provided us with insight that has been helpful in crafting our recommendations. Thank you to the staff. As many of you know, it took some time to get the current team together that runs this program. Our initial Douglas County leaders were Assistant County Manager Jennifer Davidson, Community Development Director Tom Dallaire, and Sam Taylor with the DA's office. Their patience in mentoring us has been invaluable. Our current team that includes Ernie Strelo, Program Manager, AJ Hames, DA's office, and the fantastic staff members under Ernie's tutelage are, it's just an amazing thing that's happened in the last year. Wonderful to have. I have spent some time attempting to educate staff on the unique problems of Tahoe by taking anyone that asked for a tour of our neighborhoods. Lake Tahoe is the precious gem of the Sierra. How we maintain the beauty of our area while balancing the need and desire to share this landscape is a daunting task. I'm hopeful that these recommendations will be a step in the right direction. We began the code review late into last year as we had many Tier 3 permits to hear. We've been in high gear ever since. These recommendations are a culmination of more than 50 hours of discussion by this board. As you said, are they perfect? No, they are probably not. We cannot anticipate every situation that may arise, but it will definitely be better. We listened to the residents, as evidenced by the recommendation to not allow up to 50 guests in a home and reducing occupancy. We listened to the permit holders, asking us not to require a property manager for homes with less than 10 occupancy, and to give permit holders time to adjust to any new regulations. We also considered the consumer and their needs. We will continue to listen for possible future recommendations. This has not been an easy process. Hard decisions never are. I hope that both the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners will consider these recommendations in the spirit in which they were conceived. I will be voting in favor. All righty, let's have our vote. Unless there's further discussion, I am not going to repeat the motion, but it's to approve the red lines with the amendments that AJ listed, and to ask staff to forward the red line to the Board of County Commissioners through the Planning Commission first. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That is a 5-0 unanimous vote. Thank you. And at this time, we'll take closing public comment.
Short. California aside for 17 years. I live in Douglas County in the Valley now. Tahoe is my backyard. This is the jewel of the Sierra. It is a national treasure. And I think what we're missing in the overall process, and I have participated in Washoe County and Placer County in the same realm of VHRs, is it is a Lake Tahoe Basin issue. This isn't the old ski rentals. We have the internet now. People can instantly come here. Again, this is my personal opinion. And to put some perspective into that is we have 600 VHRs. 2 cars is 1,200 cars. 3 cars is 1,800. You go to Placer County where they have 3,900. You guys can do the math. That's just cars, not people. The impacts aren't part of this process, but certainly drive the process when we talk about occupancy. I'm talking to the board as well as the public because that's where I'm impassioned. You can go get a driver's license. You gotta understand the laws and the rules, notwithstanding bad apples. It's a process we don't necessarily agree with, as well as this. I think this advisory board, the compilation of the staff, the past and new DA that represents all of this is very important, and I hope that the planning commissioners and the Board of County Commissioners take into consideration the time and effort a lot of you in the public, as well as myself, these board members have put into this, and not opt too many changes. There'll be many, many more amendments to come to this. I sat on the regional plan in 2012. For 5 years, it took us to get that into place. This is a smaller version of that, but this is one of the best processes that have looked at the public as well as the vacation home renters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Closing.
Yes, thanks. It was very helpful for me to listen to you because I recognize that you've been very analytical and looking at the data and everything, and I think that's very positive. Interestingly, I'm approved for 8, but so far I've not taken any 8 people reservations. I was limiting to 6. And if that's really the case, that occupancy is key to problems, it would be good if you have some people that don't want to have a lot of people in their homes, have like a simplified process, to go through all of this, because honestly, I'm still not recovering from the renewal in November. It's very painful. All this, so that's that I wanted to say, and I do recognize that a lot of people means more possible trouble. Yeah.
Before you walk away, can you put your name on the list
Again?
And state it? Yes, because for the minutes we have to know who spoke at each section.
Yes, Andre Gaziek, I'm an owner of Kingsbury. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other closing public comment?
Chad Smith. I'm going to be kind of late, I think, to the game as far as making some recommendations, but since the last meeting and listening to all of you, it got me thinking about maybe some simpler solutions for all these things. And I know you voted on this and it's going to go to the board, but just a couple of suggestions for you to think about maybe when you address these issues again. One is a simple one, and I had talked to Lauren about this regarding garbage, but maybe with these bear boxes, and I'm not sure if you can just roll a bear box out to the street or if everybody has to have the steel bear boxes, but if you tied the bear boxes in residential neighborhoods to an occupancy, we have a bear box that has 3 containers in it, which is more than sufficient, but it would seem to me that some owners perhaps have a property to sleep 8 and they have one single bear box and it's just not sufficient. So if you tied the bear box structure and the number of containers into it to the actual number of guests that are going to be staying in the property, you could probably eliminate a lot of garbage problems. The next thing was parking, which happens to be a problem on our street. But it's not from us, it's from owners on the property that park off to the side. When I was driving up the other day, the same yellow truck that's there all the time, I could barely squeeze by, and it's because he decides not to just park on the side, but like in the street. So there is a solution to that, and properties that we have in other places, they require for places where on-street parking is allowed, anybody that wants to park on the street has to get a permit, and they're issued 2 permits for each residence. I think something like that might go a long way, where we wouldn't have to go to Douglas County, just go to the building, the Tahoe Justice Court building, and anybody that wants to park on the street would have to get a permit. Now think about how easy that would be for compliance or code enforcement. If you're driving down the street and you see vehicles parked on the street, because honestly, you don't know whether those are vacation rentals or somebody just visiting for the day, but if you have to have a parking permit for anybody that has a property in the street to park on the street,
30 seconds.
that would go a long way as far as being able to just start writing out tickets for people that are parked out on the street. For the noise code enforcement, you guys need to get the noise monitors. I know you're not allowed to go onto the property unless you've got a warrant, unless you're given 24 hours notice. But if you actually had the noise monitors, so you could get the noise, give me just one more second, please. If you could actually get the noise levels and then ticket people, that are violating that at the time that there's actually a complaint. That go a long way. I think these are three easy solutions to, and we don't actually have a problem with the 2 per bedroom, but please keep those suggestions in mind when you meet again. Thank you.
Any additional closing public comments?
Good afternoon, Linda Hoffman. I bought my house in 2016. Thanks to my grandparents, I was able to buy my home in Elk Point with a 1031 exchange. And with the idea that it was already a rental and permitted for 12, because it's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath home. We bought in there because renters were allowed and have been for eons. The community was established in the 20s, 30s. We have families that have owned those homes since then. They might not live there, but it's their family homes sent down, year after year, decade after decade. I rented for 2 years. I've had a property manager, and they did a wonderful job. They were a mile and a half away. And if there were ever an issue, all my neighbors had my phone number. They had my name, my phone number, and they were told, you call me. Call me, and I don't care if it's 2 a.m. I've had 1 or 2 complaints in 2 years. I have more issues with some of the owners that have bought into the community and have lived there for 5 minutes with their dogs barking, their slamming of their garbage can doors. I'm there full time. I'm there full time. And I have no issues with any of our renters there. They've been cooperative. We have rules and regulations up the yin-yang. And for the most part, yeah, there's an occasional time that there are noise issues or parking issues, but they're dealt with. We have a group of people that are malcontents and litigious, and those are our major problems right now in Elk Point. But thank you for your job and what you're doing. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there any other closing public comment? Seeing none, I will closing public comment, and we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody.